The big news on financial markets overnight came out of the US. Some good news for a change. Retail sales for the month of March were up by about 0.8%, which is about 3 times analyst expectations. It follows another good month in February. Effectively what this did was to drive some optimism about the strength of the US recovery, and that's obviously a good thing for markets. On the other side of the world, in Europe, some better than expected numbers too in terms of Europe's trade surplus. There's a significant amount of exports coming out of Europe, which is primarily driven by the fact that the euro is at such low levels. However, these waves of optimism were generally tempered very much by concerns about what's happening in Spain, and that still really dominated the world financial markets. Looking at the US, the Dow was up more than 70 points, breaking through the 12,900 barrier. In Europe, most European stock indices were also up, but not by an awful lot, up by around 0.5% across the board. In New Zealand and Australia, however, we were still overcoming the shocks of the Spanish announcements, with both local markets going down. The Kiwi down by about 14 points, the Aussie by more than 20 points. Looking at currencies, again, we're seeing that flight towards safe currencies, the Kiwi being down against most of its major trading partners. Data released by the Department of Statistics yesterday showed that the price of food across New Zealand had fallen by about 1%. This is after an increase in February and a relatively flat period in January. One of the key things was that the index, which is measured in food subgroups, fell across the board. So all subgroups fell. This is actually relatively rare, and it was in fact the first time since around July 2006 that this has happened. Looking at the individual subcategories, in the fruit and vegetable space, fruit and vegetable prices fell by just over 4%, led predominantly by a fall in apple prices of about 24%. This reflects, of course, the apple harvest coming onto the market. Fish, poultry and meat also fell, and although this was actually led by a fall in the price of chicken pieces, neither lamb nor beef were immune, and this probably shows the increased kill together with weakness in offshore markets, particularly for the lamb. In the grocery sector, cheddar fell by around 12%, again reflecting potential falls in offshore markets. Looking at groceries though, some good news. The price of chocolate biscuits fell by around 8% in March. So what this means is tomorrow when you have a cup of coffee, feel free to have another chocky bicky.